My name is Emily Carter. And for many years, saying that name aloud was like opening a door to a past I longed to hide from myself. To those who observed me from afar, I was merely a dangerous shadow, a rumor that arose where justice failed, where the law was unable to reach. I became a feared whisper, and most of the time, I believed that protected me, that it made me strong, that it kept me alive. But no one knew that behind that cold figure was a deeply wounded woman, trying to survive her own ghosts. On the outside, I walked with firmness. On the inside, I crumbled a little more each day. There are things that break the soul in a way that it is never the same again, and that's how it was with me. When I lost the only person who truly gave meaning to my existence, something inside me broke with a snap I can still hear. I didn't cry. I hardened. And the instant I hardened, anger found room to grow. Anger doesn't arrive like a monster. It begins like an embrace. A warm, comfortable, convincing embrace. It promised me strength. It promised answers. It promised justice. And I accepted. I accepted because it hurt too much to remain still. I accepted because it seemed easier to hurt than to feel. And as I fed that flame, it began to consume everything I was. My thoughts, my choices, my breath. With each act I committed, I believed I was balancing a scale broken by the world. Today, I know. I wasn't seeking justice. I was seeking a place to deposit my despair. Hate has a silent way of convincing us that we are in control, when in reality, we are the ones being shaped by it. I became a weapon pointed at everything that reminded me of my pain. And for a long time, I believed there was no turning back, that it was too late for who I once was, that my destiny was to continue living in the shadows I myself had nurtured. But there is a limit, a point where the void becomes an abyss, and I reached it without realizing it. Before God showed me what lies beyond my last breath, my fall began long before. Slow, silent, inevitable. And it is precisely at this point in my story that your own life may be connecting with mine. Perhaps you too are nurturing something you haven't noticed growing. Perhaps you are walking without noticing the abyss ahead. I know what it's like to get lost. And I know what happens when God decides to stop that fall. Because what I saw when my heart stopped wasn't just an end. It was a trial, a revelation, an encounter that changed everything. If you stay with me, I'll tell you, unfiltered and without sugarcoating anything, what really awaited me on the other side, and why I could never be the same again. Now I know this story has already made you feel the weight of choices that seem irreversible, so stay with me until the end. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like so that more people can learn about testimonies that reveal what so many try to ignore. The truth needs to be told, and you are part of that when you stay here. I never planned to enter the underworld, but I realized too late that certain paths don't begin with a clear decision. They begin with an open wound that no one helps to stop bleeding. After losing the one I loved most, I felt as if life had ripped away any possibility of a future. The world kept turning, people kept breathing, but inside me there was only a heavy silence, an empty space that seemed to beg for something to fill the pain. And it was in that space that darkness found its home. At first, I believed I knew exactly what I was doing. The context came almost naturally, as if that dark environment had been waiting for me for a long time. I met people who lived without remorse, who seemed strong because they showed no weakness whatsoever. And I began to believe that this was the kind of strength I needed to cultivate. Easy money came quickly, and with it an almost intoxicating sense of control. I moved between alleys, warehouses, and clandestine meetings as if I were born for it. Although a distant part of me still whispered that none of this matched who I once was. Weapons ceased to be frightening objects and became tools that guaranteed my survival. Looks of fear came to mean that I was in charge. And every time someone respected me because of the violence I could inflict, I felt a strange mixture of power and emptiness, as if I were constantly chasing something I could never touch. I told myself that all of this was just a means to an end, that I was only preparing to take justice into my own hands. But as I plunged deeper into that abyss, I realized that something inside me was being corroded. And it was precisely in this silent process that the sin began to be born. The sin that would open a door I never imagined I could cross. The first time I crossed the line wasn't planned, and for a long time I tried to convince myself it was just an impulsive reaction, something inevitable after everything I'd been through. But looking back, I realized that instant was exactly where my soul was wounded in a way that no human remedy could heal. I remember the smell of the place, the tension cutting through the air, the cold sweat running down my neck as I stared at someone who, until then, represented the embodiment of all my pain. At that moment, I believed that if I eliminated that person, I would also eliminate the feeling that was eating me up inside. When I pulled the trigger, something inside me broke in an irreversible way. There was no triumph as I had imagined, nor was there any relief. The sound of the gun echoed through the empty corridors, but the silence that followed was even more devastating. I trembled, not because of what I had done, but because, for the first time, I realized that the pain had not lessened. On the contrary, it seemed to have found a new place to hide, deeper, darker, harder to reach. I should have understood then that evil doesn't appear in a grand way. It enters like a whisper, offering quick fixes for wounds that demand true healing. But I didn't want to acknowledge that. Instead, I accepted that emptiness as part of me, as if it were the natural price to pay for a life marked by loss. And that's how the door opened. Silent, discreet, almost imperceptible. A spiritual door that allowed my consciousness to gradually fall asleep, preparing the ground for a coldness I never imagined I would carry. Little did I know that crossing that door would lead me to a place so dark that even my anger began to fear what I was becoming. After that first step, everything began to change inside me at a speed I couldn't keep up with. It didn't happen overnight, and perhaps that's why it was so dangerous. The coldness didn't settle in like a storm. It came like a fine drizzle that, when I realized it, had already flooded everything. With each new situation where I needed to act violently, that inner voice that had previously trembled grew quieter until it disappeared completely. I no longer felt repulsion, hesitation, or guilt. It was as if my soul was being coated in a thick layer of ice that allowed me to do anything without anything truly affecting me. The people I hurt ceased to have names, faces, or stories. They became mere obstacles, shadows that needed to be removed so I could continue chasing the illusion that I still had some control over my life. And the further I advanced, the further I got from the Emily who once existed. The one who still believed in love, in peace, in the promise of a future. The world around me seemed gray, without shine, and yet it was easier to remain there than to try to look inside and admit the size of the hole I myself had dug. I told myself it was about survival, but deep down I knew that was just a mask to hide the truth. I didn't want to feel anything anymore. Feeling was too painful. It was easier to act as if my heart had been ripped out, as if the pain no longer had a place to affect me. I didn't realize that by denying my emotions, I was killing something much bigger than the pain. I was killing my own soul. And while this invisible death was happening, another, much more literal one was approaching me without my noticing, ready to reveal what I never imagined I would face. The night it all ended seemed like so many others. I walked like someone who already knew every shadow on the street, every sound in the city, every suspicious movement that might appear. Nothing surprised me anymore. Nothing shook. Me and this false sense of control over danger was precisely what made me vulnerable. The mission should have been simple. Enter, resolve the situation, and disappear before anyone noticed. I had done it dozens of times before, but that night there was something different in the air. A tension that I ignored because I thought myself incapable of failing. I remember the damp smell of the shed, the flickering lights, the distant sound of something dripping in the back. I walked with firm steps, but inside I carried a weariness I no longer even noticed. The encounter happened too quickly. An exchange of glances, a sudden movement, a shot that wasn't mine. The sound pierced the space like a blade cutting through the air, and in that instant I felt such intense pressure in my chest that it completely took my breath away. It was as if someone had ripped away everything I still held inside me. When my legs gave way, the world seemed to slow down in a strange way. I fell backward, feeling the cold floor receive me as if welcoming something that already belongs to the darkness. The ceiling spun, my breath faltered, and for the first time in a long time, there was no anger, no struggle, no justification. There was only one stark truth. My body was losing its life, and I no longer had any control over anything. As my eyes grew heavy, an unexpected thought crossed my mind. So strong, it seemed like a whispered voice inside me. This is not the end. And before I could understand what, that meant something happened. Something that could never be explained with human words. When the last thread of strength left my chest, I felt as if I were sinking into a silent, heavy sea, unable to move even a finger. Yet, at the same time, something within me seemed to detach itself, as if an invisible part were being pulled out of the body that lay dying on the floor. At first, I thought it was just the confusion of death, a hallucination caused by lack of air, but I soon realized it wasn't. It was too real to be a dream, too profound to be a delusion. Suddenly, everything around me seemed to become impossible to understand. I saw the dust particles suspended in the air as if frozen in time. I saw my own body lying on the ground, pale, motionless, vulnerable. The scene was so disturbing that a knot of dread formed within me, because at that exact moment I understood that I was standing, but my body was not with me. The sensation was so stark that I needed a few seconds to accept the truth that was imposing itself upon me. I had left my body and now existed in a state I never imagined experiencing. I tried to scream for help. I tried to touch my body. I tried to do anything to prove that I still had some control over the situation. But it was all useless. My voice was silent. My hands moved through everything around me as if they were made of wind. The warehouse, once so concrete, now seemed like a distant, almost irrelevant setting in the face of the gravity of what was happening. It was then that a profound chill ran through my essence, a chill that didn't come from the environment, but from some spiritual place. It was as if an invisible presence was announcing that I wasn't alone. Something was watching me, not with human eyes, but with a consciousness capable of penetrating every layer of my soul. And at that moment, without my knowing it, I was about to be led to an encounter that would change everything I believed about life, death, justice, and eternity. As I stood there, floating between despair and disbelief, the atmosphere began to shift so intensely that my entire soul seemed to tremble. The darkness around me, previously just a silent void, began to move as if alive, slowly receding to give way to something I cannot describe with human words without feeling the same impact as that night. The atmosphere became dense, charged with a presence so powerful that it made every fragment of me want to kneel, even without a body, even without strength. It was as if the very air carried authority, truth, and purity in an overwhelming measure. That's when he appeared. He didn't appear walking, nor descending, nor passing through invisible doors. He was as if his existence filled all space. I needed no explanations, no introduction, no words spoken. I knew without a doubt that I was standing before Jesus. But he did not come as the meek savior I had seen in paintings or imagined in distant childhood memories. His presence was majestic, irrefutable, and his garments radiated a light that did not hurt the eyes, but wounded the soul. Not out of cruelty, but because they reflected everything I had never been. His hands did not point at me. His lips did not move in any accusation, and yet I felt as if my actions were engraved on him with absolute clarity. When his eyes met mine, there was no verbal judgment, but a devastating revelation. I saw myself through his eyes. I saw the weight of the lives I took, the choices I destroyed, the pain I spread like one scattering ashes to the wind. At that moment, the truth struck me with such force that I couldn't contain my own spirit. And I knew, with a certainty that completely froze me, that what he would show me next would be even deeper and far more painful than anything I had ever experienced on Earth. Before him, I realized there was no room for justifications, no hiding places, no hardened persona I had created to survive. Everything I believed to be. Strength crumbled to dust when Jesus turned his gaze not only to me, but to something that seemed to project itself behind me, as if my story were opening up on a large invisible panel. And without a word being spoken, I understood that he was carrying out the kind of judgment that doesn't humiliate, but reveals. The light around me began to move like deep waters, and from within that brightness emerged faces, one after another, like memories I had tried to bury for years. They were the people whose lives I had erased, not just their last moments, but everything they would have lived if my violence hadn't interrupted their paths. I saw a young woman embracing her mother after a graduation that never happened, a man holding the newborn son he never met, a woman starting her life anew after years of internal struggle. I watched entire destinies unfold before me, destinies I had ripped away without realizing the true weight of what I was doing. The pain that gripped my spirit was so profound it felt like it was tearing something apart inside me. I didn't see monsters, I didn't see flames, I didn't see physical torture. The torment was existing with a pure conscience, realizing that the evil I chose to commit carried eternal consequences. The absence of God there wasn't an imposed punishment. It was the natural consequence of the choice I nurtured in each act of revenge. And as all this weight revealed itself, something even deeper began to form around me, as if I were being led to a spiritual precipice. And I understood with overwhelming fear that there was still something he needed to show me, something that would forever define who I would become from then on. When the weight of that revelation finally broke me completely, I felt something inside me crumble, as if all the defenses I had built throughout my life were being torn away by God's own hands. I found myself bowed before him, not by imposition, but because my soul no longer had the strength to remain upright in the face of so much truth. And it was then, in that place between regret and absolute despair, that a cry escaped me uncontrollably. It wasn't a beautiful, articulate, or dignified request. It was a spiritual cry torn by my choices, by accumulated guilt, by the horror of finally seeing who I had truly been. I begged for forgiveness, not to erase my past, but so that my existence would not be condemned to an eternity separated from the presence that, at that moment, was the only thing capable of bringing meaning. Jesus remained silent for a long time, but his presence did not diminish. I didn't know if that silence meant judgment or mercy, but I felt something change around me. The light that had previously seemed to expose me now seemed to envelop me. I felt as if something was being bent toward me, not by merit, but by grace. A grace so profound that it made me weep in a way I had never wept on earth. And it was at that moment that I felt a gentle force pulling me back, if I were being ripped from that spiritual reality. The return to my body was abrupt, disconcerting, almost violent. I opened my eyes with difficulty, hearing machines beeping and desperate voices around me. Air rushed into my lungs like fire, and I realized I was back. But Emily was no longer the same. Something had been rewritten within me. And upon rising from that bed, I understood that the second chance I had received carried a responsibility that would change all my steps from then on. From the moment my eyes opened in that silent hospital, with the cold smell of medicine and the distant echo of hurried footsteps in the corridors, I understood something I had never understood before. Returning to life was not a prize. It was a responsibility. A second chance doesn't arrive as a gift wrapped in comfort. It arrives as an urgent, sometimes painful call to face everything we've avoided for years. I realized in that first second of awareness that returning didn't erase any of my mistakes. The shadows I myself had nurtured were still there, and the consequences of the path I chose still breathed around me. But if God brought me back, it wasn't to continue being the woman I was. It was to carry a truth I no longer had the right to ignore. I needed to accept that, although my past was immutable, my destiny wasn't bound by it. And that's why I'm speaking directly to you now. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, or what you're facing right now. Maybe you're holding a pain inside your chest that no one sees. Maybe you smile on the outside and bleed on the inside. Maybe you're trying to keep your head held high while something inside you screams for help. I know what it's like. I lived in that silent abyss for too long. And today I understand that most people believe they can control their own emptiness until the emptiness starts controlling their every step. Anger was the first to seduce me. It arrived slowly, with the false promise of strength, with that convincing discourse that feeling hatred was proof that I was still alive. And I believed it. I believed it like millions believe. But anger never prepares anyone for the price it exacts later. It warms you at first, yes. But soon it burns, devastates, corrodes. It's a fire that doesn't illuminate. It consumes. It doesn't lift you up. It drags you down. It doesn't empower. It enslaves. And the most dangerous thing is that, while it destroys everything around it, it whispers that you are in control. I had to die to realize the lie. And that's what I need you to understand now. Evil doesn't arrive making noise. It doesn't announce itself with shouts, nor with explicit threats. It arrives as a gentle voice, perfectly fitting your wound. It uses your pain as an argument. It uses your trauma as justification. It uses your loneliness as an excuse. When you realize it, that which promised you strength has already taken over every direction of your life. And when you understand, you are no longer choosing. You are obeying something that grew inside you without you realizing it. I came back from that experience not as a heroine, not as someone enlightened or special, but as someone who almost got lost forever. Almost. And that almost is the difference between life and an abyss that many only realize when it's too late. I don't want that to happen to you. Therefore, listen carefully. Don't wait until you reach your breaking point to see the prison you yourself have been. Feeding. Hatred promises justice, but delivers captivity. Revenge promises peace, but delivers chains. Anger promises strength, but delivers ruins. And forgiveness, yes, the one that seems impossible, is the only door that truly opens to freedom. Not because it absolves the one who hurt you, but because it frees you from what consumes you. Honestly examine what is growing within you. Observe the signs you have been ignoring. Think about the paths you are unconsciously forging. Are you nurturing? Light or darkness? Are you drawing closer to God or moving further away from Him? Because everything you cultivate within your heart, absolutely everything, will blossom at some point. And what blossoms determines your destiny. I am not here to frighten you. I am here to prevent you from repeating my path. To remind you that there is a fine line between the pain you feel and the mistake you might make because of it. And that this line breaks far too quickly when there is no spiritual vigilance. If this story touched you, if it stirred something dormant within you, if it made you reflect on your choices and what you're keeping inside, then stay here. Subscribe to the channel and follow each testimony, each warning, each word that may be exactly what God wants to use to reach you before time does it through more painful paths. Sometimes a video isn't just a video. It's a divine opportunity to transform your life before life transforms you in a way you wouldn't want.